Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first of our webinar series, Tired of Being Tired. Today, we're going to focus on burnout. And, I was talking to somebody today about burnout, and they said that they would love to join us, but she was too burnt out to hop on. And I think when Ange and I started to think about doing these, we recognize burnout is pretty prolific in, well, I think in everybody, but because we love to work with women, I'll just say in women, 40 plus, we are burning the candle at more than both ends, I think in the middle and sides as well. Um, so part of the reason why we really wanted to do these is to share some of the things that have worked for us, some tips and tricks to use, some of the science behind what's going on, but also to start to foster a community of women so that if you're out there struggling with things, you know that you're not alone. So as tonight goes, we're going to go through a few slides, share some information with you, and then, if this becomes just a really good conversation between everybody who's here, I know I'd be happy with that for sure. Um, my kind of habit when I run live uh, events is I tend to stop recording once we get to the Q&A and the conversation. So if you are catching the replay and want to dive into the community piece, please hop on live the next time. And with that, I think we'll dive in theory. Ah, there we go. Aha. So, Ange, what are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, we are going to talk about ourselves, and then we're going to talk about our experience with burnout. And then we're going to talk about the body's response and victim mentality, control issues, lifestyle, and then what's next. And then we're going to give you some tools that you can start using right away.
Beautiful. I love it. This is one of the quotes that I discovered when I started to prepare for tonight, which I really, really loved. In that burnout is what happens when we ignore the whispers of our soul. And I just want to state that our whole culture is really set up and make it really hard for us to hear the whispers of our soul. So this quote isn't like um, you're not a good human because you're not listening to the whispers of your soul. It's just an acknowledgement that oftentimes we do find ourselves burned out when we've been ignoring ourselves too long. And that oftentimes we are in jobs that keep us too busy, family needs that keep us too busy, friend needs that keep us too busy, so that it's really, really hard to hear those whispers. So, like, no judgment, no shame, just like owning where we're at is really what I like about this quote. Is that it's time to kind of get quiet and hear what our soul's trying to say. Angela.
So, a little bit about me. I have an honors BA in psychology and ancient history. I'm also a human resources professional. Um, I'm an empowerment dynamic practitioner, and I'm actually going to share a little bit about the empowerment dynamic tonight. I'm going to give you an intro to it. I'm a certified life and wellness coach. I'm a certified sound healer. It's sort of muted behind me, but my bowls are actually right here behind me. They're always around me. I'm an Abukra healer, which is working with energy. And my goal is really to bring play back into people's lives, because what I've found is that as you get older, you forget how to play. And play is so important to your spirit and to your soul and to your well-being. And so that's why I do Wiggle Wednesdays. Most of you know that. You see the Wiggle Wednesdays, and I hear people always say, oh, you always make me laugh when you do that. Part of why I do that is because it's play. Nobody expects someone to just in the middle of nowhere just start shaking their butt. But you can't wiggle without a giggle. I dare you to try. Try and do a wiggle and not laugh at yourself. You will not be able to do it. And of course, I'm a travel enthusiast. I just love to travel and experience life. So, my story of burnout is tied to the fact that my whole life I've always felt like I needed to take care of everybody else. And my focus has always been outward. And at work, I mean, I'm in HR, so what does HR do? Well, HR takes care of people. And then when I would come home, what would I do is I would take care of my partner, or I would be worried about my parents, or I would be worried about my partner's parents, or I would be worried about, what's happening in his world. And I kind of forgot about myself for a little while. And I got so tied up worrying about everybody else and just giving and giving and giving and not refilling my cup with things that brought me joy and kept me grounded that eventually I ended up crashing. And it was a hard crash. My partnership ended and sold the house. And because I had rented out my house, I actually ended up having to um, go and rent an Airbnb during COVID. like, so I was completely isolated, and everybody said you should go stay with friends. You shouldn't be alone. And you know what? It was the best thing I could have done for myself because it made me focus back on me. I didn't have to take care of anybody else. I only had to take care of myself. And that opened up my eyes to what I had been doing and where my energy had been going. And so, although that was a horrible thing to go through, at the end of the day, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. And I'll talk more about that as we go along.
Thanks for sharing. Ah, I love you, lady.
I love you too.
Okay, so a little bit about me. So I have my master's of health science and nutrition. I also have an honors BA in psychology with a minor in spirituality. I'm a train theory advocate, which really means that I like to look at the health of the environment that somebody's in. So really looking at that holistic picture as opposed to just being like, oh, you need to take magnesium or you need to eat more nuts and seeds. So I really look at health from a body, mind, spirit perspective. And I especially look at health from a stress and trauma perspective. I'm a life activation practitioner, which is a really beautiful modality that balances everybody, the energy bodies, and fills the person with light and reconnects them with their divine blueprint. I'm a stone medicine practitioner, and I really firmly believe that the crystals are getting popular on Earth right now because they have just such a beautiful energy that helps people ground, helps people anchor into their spirituality, their divinity, and really can help with burnout and stress just by holding a stone in your hand, putting one under your pillow, wearing it as jewelry. I know I had a client here the other night. I had big hunks of shungite, which is a grounding crystal, under her feet, in her hands, and in her lap as she just sat and did her one on one session with me. And I really believe that they're here to just remind us that we can go slower. We don't have to be in such a rush. Um, I'm a sports nutritionist as well, working with folks from weekend warriors all the way up to Team Canada athletes. And I love to define myself as a modern day hedge witch. I really love to support my community, to be in there with the stones, with the energy healing, with the sitting on my couch and having cacao and having the deep, deep conversations. And then I also really know that I need to disappear and refill my cup, just like the hedge witch of old, who was very much part of her community and then would go and disappear into the forest. And yeah, also have burnout lived experience, and mine is tied a little bit more to trauma. As we'll dive into on the next slide, burnout kind of shows up either from a stress background or a trauma background, and unfortunately, mine comes a bit more from the trauma standpoint. So I would say that I've recovered from burnout probably 3 times in my adult life. The first time was when I was leaving my marriage and had some repressed trauma from my teens come up that I needed to navigate. And also just the stress of leaving a marriage with very little financial stability and needing to couch surf for about 6 months. Um, while trying to figure out how to single parent really landed me on my butt. Um, did not heal well from that one at all. I would say, reality was I needed to put food on the table and get a roof over my kids' head. So I just continued to just push through burnt out. I was pretty much doing the bare minimum. Oftentimes I'd fall into bed while my kid watched a movie and just tried to pretend like I was being present with him, even though I wasn't. I've also had 4 concussions, so have struggled with a lot of chronic pain in the past, and that is not fun. But I would say probably my last bout of burnout has come from the past 2 years of taking care of my parents as their health declined and both of them passed. Needing to really take care of them, also take care of my son, wrap up a corporate, like a small business job, and just try to deal with grieving on top of everything. And I would say I'm just coming out of burnout. For the first time ever in my life, I was able to, like Ange said, take the time, focus on myself, spend a lot of time alone, and really look at what I needed to come back from burnout in a sustainable way. And I'm really grateful to say that. So, what are we all about, Ange?
So, Sacred Explorers. Um, well, first, let me tell you how it began. So, Sacred Explorers actually began on the beach in Mexico. Kat and I were traveling to Mexico because we needed a break and we wanted to be in the sun and the sand. And it was last February. And we were sitting on the beach and we were talking, and I was talking about how I really wanted to find a way to connect with women and the sense of community and help people to draw within their power at their core, because everybody is magnificent at their core. You're born magnificent, you are magnificent, and then over time and through life, society and people and social media and everything starts to tear away at that, and then you forget who you are. And so we want to bring you back and remind you who you are. So our goal is to help women going through life transitions discover the ability to go within, draw on the power at their core, live their purpose while building connections with like-hearted women. That is our goal. That is our purpose.
Yes, because I think, the past few years have really isolated a lot of us, and that does not help with uh, burnout. It doesn't help with our like severe lack of play, and it doesn't help us recognize that, if I'm going through something, I'm not alone. There's other people out there going through the same thing, and when we have a really strong community, um, we can laugh and cry together, and that's what gets us through. Okay, so I'm just going to do a very little bit of science just to frame what's going on in our bodies when we are talking about burnout. So, in order to do that, I need to let you know that we have 3 parts to our nervous system. We have the one part of our nervous system that says to us, I'm safe, I'm home, and I got this. I can operate whatever comes my way, I can handle it. Scientific name is ventral vagal, but you can just think of it as kind of like the I'm safe part of how you navigate through the world. The next part of our nervous system is the I'm stressed, I got to do something system. That's our sympathetic. Most of us know that as our fight or flight response. And that used to be where the story ended when we talked about stress and then when we talked about burnout. So, burnout was just somebody who had been stressed for too long. You might have heard the term adrenal fatigue. So, basically, it was just somebody who had so much stress that their adrenal glands could no longer handle their stress, so they burnt out. But what they have recently discovered, there's actually a third part of our nervous system. And this is the part of our nervous system that is the I'm overwhelmed, I'm traumatized, I'm numb, I don't have the resources to handle what's happening to me. And this is the scientific name for this is the dorsal vagal. So you may have been hearing out in the world a little bit more buzz about the vagus nerve. So that is kind of the nerve that is responsible for both this numbing out component of more of a trauma response, and it's also the component of our I'm safe, I'm home, I've got this. So ideally, if we're living in a perfect world, we're going to be running from the vagus nerve more consistently. A couple of things I wanted to touch on here is especially for us women over 40, as our estrogen levels start to drop, estrogen has a protective effect on the way that we manage stress. It kind of like mellows out our cortisol levels a bit more. But when we start to have declining levels of estrogen in our body, we don't have that protective effect anymore. So our cortisol levels affect our health more um, strongly than they would when we had a lot of estrogen running around. So what this often means is things that you used to be able to handle really well, you now have less of a buffer. So you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, I used to be able to like have three projects on the go, get the kids to hockey, cook the dinner, go out with the girls and still like get out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning to get my workout in. And now I'm just too flippin' tired to do any of those things, let alone all of them. And this is oftentimes because traditionally, as women would move into menopause, they would move into that like crone status or wise woman status, where they would spend a lot less time doing and a lot more time being. Our culture isn't set up like that anymore. So as our estrogen levels drop, we're still expected to perform at the levels that we were performing in our 20s and 30s. And that's just not realistic. Um, so our bodies eventually will reach burnout if we continue to push. And this happens with either too much stress, so we move into that fight or flight, and then we eventually move into adrenal fatigue, or we have too much trauma, which means we freeze and we get that overactive dorsal vagal nerve. So I like just to put it into personality types, if you're somebody who runs too high on the stress, you're going to be that type of person who can't sit still. You're a constant worrier. You can't fall asleep at night because you're running. What if I did this? Or could I have done this better? Or should have said this? Or what do I have to do tomorrow? You're always kind of like looking outward. What needs to be done? What did I not get to? The person who's a little bit more trapped in that trauma loop, they're the person who can't get off the couch. They're the person who is scrolling, like before they know it, they've been on their phone on the couch for 2, 3 hours and haven't been able to get anything done. Can't wash the dishes, can't make the bed, might not even be able to shower. So oftentimes that person's struggling with feeling really like a failure and like they're lazy, and they're not recognizing that um, they're actually coping with too much stress in just by completely numbing out and freezing. So hopefully those two kind of components of burnout make sense, and you can kind of see yourself or people that you know in one of those two.
So one of the causes of stress is drama. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the dreaded drama triangle. And some of you may have heard of this. It's not a new term, it's been around for a while. But when I was going through what I was going through, I really resonated with this. And that's how I became an empowerment dynamic practitioner. Now, this is a definition of victim. I don't love it, but I liked it better than some of the other ones. So the Cambridge Dictionary says someone or something that has been hurt, damaged, or killed, or has suffered either because of the actions of someone or something else, or because of illness or chance. Okay? However, I would say if you think about a victim, next slide, nowadays, when we think about a victim, we think about somebody who feels they've been treated unfairly, they've lost hope that anything will ever be great again. Those who feel victimized, they usually have a point of view that nothing is ever going to work out for them in one specific area of their life. And that can also then expand out to other areas of their life. And their perception becomes their reality. Because they keep saying this over and over again, it becomes ingrained and becomes part of who they are. So they will actively search out proof that this is happening in their lives. Do you see what I mean? I told you, nothing ever works out for me. That's what they will say over and over and over again. So they end up feeling that they have zero control over the outcome of their lives, which leads to dis-ease in the body, the mind, and the spirit, and causes you to then become stuck in what is known as a victim loop. So the victim loop basically says that where you put your attention and you set your intention, you're going to get the results. So if you're in a victim mentality, then you have a problem. The problem causes you anxiety. You react to the anxiety. You don't solve the problem, and then you're back where you started again. So you don't take the time to step back and look at it from a different perspective. And when you feel like you have no control over one aspect of your life, you then try to control other areas of your life. And this is also called the rescuer mentality. So if you have a rescuer mentality, it means that you feel like you can't control your life, so therefore you are going to control other people. You're going to make other people do things so that you feel better about yourself. Okay? So what does that mean? It means you're creating drama, right? Because you're taking your perspective, which has become your reality, and you are trying to put other people into that box. Nobody wants to be put in a box. Baby does not want to be put in a corner, okay? So now you've created conflict because the person that you're trying to help, or you think you're trying to help, because you think that person is a victim, they're really not a victim. But you think they're a victim because you're projecting it onto them. You want to try and fix them. Well, they don't like that. So therefore, they're going to react in a way that you weren't expecting, which then reinforces your feeling that you have no control. Do you understand how this is like a horrible loop that you get yourself into? And then you have the persecutor. So once the victim attacks the rescuer then becomes a persecutor, because then the rescuer will then attack the victim again. And so you've created this horrible triangle where you're not going to get out of it. You're never going to feel like you have control because you're trying to control other people and you're not focusing on yourself. And because you're doing that, you're going to burn yourself out because you're going to stress yourself out and you're going to create disease. So again, what does it look like? So when we talk about the dreaded drama triangle, we talk about the persecutor. The persecutor is the person who blames other people for everything, tries to tear other people down, does not want to look at themselves at all. Then you have the rescuer personality. The rescuer believes that everyone needs to be fixed. They fear that they are not going to be needed. They fear that they're not going to be loved unless they can fix other people. And I will tell you, I was guilty of being a rescuer. I wanted to fix the world. I had a superhero complex. I can admit it. And then you have the victim. So the victim is the one that feels powerless. And you will take on all of these roles as long as you're in the triangle. Okay? So an example, oh, sorry, someone said they wanted an example. So an example, let me think of an example of this. Okay, so here's an example. You're at work and I'm a rescuer and I'm at work and I see a person sitting at their desk and they don't look happy. So I walk over to them and I'm like, what's wrong? How can I fix this for you? And the person is going to look at me and they're going to say, I don't need your help. And then I'm going to turn to them and I'm going to say, well, if you don't need my help and you don't need anybody's help, then maybe you should smile more and not look like the whole world is after you. Okay, so that's an example of how this could play out. Okay, so what do we want to see? We want to see the empowerment dynamic. So the empowerment dynamic is where instead of having a victim mentality, you have a creator mentality. So you shift your focus. Instead of saying nothing ever works out for me, what you want to do is you want to say, what can I do in this situation? What do I have control over? What do I have power over? Okay? Instead of being a rescuer, you're going to be a coach. So what that means is instead of trying to fix it for them or doing it for them, what you want to do is ask questions knowing that they already know what to do. Because coaches are there to pull the strengths out of their players. Okay? They're not there to play the game for them. They're there to help them pull on their strengths so that they can play the game. And the challenger is going to support them by telling them they can do it, by using statements and being supportive. Instead of tearing them down, you're going to lift them up. Okay? So, what does this look like? Okay, so what does this look like when we talk about the elements? So one of the things that Kat and I are very fond of, I guess, would be the elements. So we have the 4 elements. So we have earth, fire, water, and air. And technically there's a 5th, which is spirit. But we're going to focus on the 4 main ones. And so when you think about the elements and you think about how do you use these elements and pull on these elements to help you further develop the empowerment dynamic. So some of you might know already what your element is, and if you don't, that's okay. We can help you figure that out, and we'll talk about that later. So let's say that fire is one of your dominant elements. So if fire is your dominant element, fire is a creative energy, okay? Fire is passion. Fire is drive. Fire is creativity. That ties into the creator energy. Let's say you're more of a water. Well, water is a coach. And the reason why we say water is a coach, because water is flowing, right? Water doesn't force anything. Water doesn't push anything. It just kind of floats along and leads people down. If you go into a river and you lay there on the river, the current is going to carry you. Okay? And then if you're earth, you're more of a challenger. Okay? You've got your feet grounded, you're rooted into the earth, you're rooted into the ground, you're rooted into who you are. And because you're rooted into who you are then able to take that energy and help others to grow. And now I know you're sitting there and you're saying, well, Ange, where's air? Air is in all of them. You need air to fuel fire. You need air to have water. And you need air for growth. So the air element fuels it all. So, how do you shift focus? That's great, Ange. Thanks for all that. But what do we do with it? Okay? So, the one thing I want you to look at is it's something called pause. Okay? And what this means is when you start to feel overwhelmed or you start to feel stressed, and you will feel it. People say, "Oh, I don't know when I'm stressed." Oh, you know when you're stressed. You feel it. You need to say to yourself, stop. And you need to take a couple of deep breaths. And you're going to pause. And some people have said, "Oh my God, how am I going to do that in a meeting?" You'd be amazed at how easy it is to do in a meeting because people aren't really paying attention to you most of the time. So you can take a deep breath and just put your hands on your lap, put your hands in your lap. Don't put your hands on your heart, that might look weird. But you can put your hands on your lap. Take a deep breath. And then you need to feel the ground under your feet. So put your feet down on the ground. If you're sitting in a chair, put your feet down on the ground. If you're standing up, feel your feet in the ground. Okay? And then focus on the tension that's in your body as you're breathing, flowing down into your feet and into the ground. Okay? And then what you want to do is you want to say, okay, where am I focusing right now? Am I focusing on the problem or am I trying to come up with a solution? What is in my control right now? Do I need help with this? Probably you do. Who can I ask for help? And then, you know what? It's easy for me to say, I get that, but if you start focusing on this and you start just little practice, you will start to see a shift in your energy and your stress levels. And it's important that you have grace for yourself, okay? Because it's not like tomorrow all of a sudden you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, what did she say? Oh, she said, okay, pause, breathe, put my feet on the ground. What am I focusing on? I'm focusing on my feet on the ground. Like, this isn't working for me." Okay? So you really do need to just have grace for yourself and know that this is going to work. You just need to have a little bit of patience with it and a little bit of practice with it.
Thanks, Ange. I love that. And I love actually, we're always just such a good balance for each other. Because while Angela focused on all of the things that really are quite individual focused, I want to take a little bit of time and just talk a little bit more about how our modern culture is set up. That really makes burnout like really hard to avoid. Um, so our modern culture really promotes what I like to call a push. So it's the hustle culture, it's the grind, it's the work first, play later lifestyle. It's the like you have to earn your rest. Um, this is not ideal for women. So women are cyclical by nature. So this modern culture is what I call linear. It really, like I said, pushes forward and it never ever stops. It is goes forward in a linear fashion. We as women are cyclical beings. We have a monthly cycle. And even if we're not having a period anymore, we still don't have that drive um, that our culture seems to think is like the winning culture. So I spend a lot of time in my work helping people to align to living with the elements. So as Angela introduced us to the elements, um, we each have of all four of these elements within our makeup. Interestingly enough, The moon travels through all four of these elements every month in a beautiful, repeatable cycle. And even the days of our week have been named after planets, and the planets all represent different elements. So there's so many different ways that we can start to align our life to the elements that provides this natural circle of rest and promoting a feeling of safety. It allows our vagus nerve to be the lead actress and the adrenal glands to play a supporting role. So you might be saying, what the heck does that mean? So in the culture that we live in right now, the only way to push forward is to lean on our adrenal glands more than they're meant to be leaned on. So that's why adrenal fatigue, like if you Google burnout right now, most likely the first thing that will come up is adrenal fatigue. And that's because people are relying on those adrenal glands to get them through when our adrenal system was never meant to be the primary way to move us through our day. If we go back to the very beginning of tonight, we talked about that I'm home, I'm safe component of our nervous system. That's our vagus nerve. And we have been living in a culture didn't even really know what the vagus nerve did um, up until just a few years ago. I also think it's really interesting because the vagus nerve, if you actually look at it, it looks like a tree. So it literally looks like our brain is the top of the tree and with this really beautiful root system that percolates throughout the whole body. So it even looks very elemental. So just a little bit of an example of how we can move into using those elements. So as Ange said, we've got fire, earth, water, air. So water is our natural time to rest. So Monday is named after the moon. So that's a water day, a really beautiful day to do some self-care, to set up your spiritual practice, to book your therapy sessions. I love that it's our traditional first day of the week, which seems so counterintuitive to be like to start the week with self-care. But actually, I think it's very intuitive because if we were to take the first day of the week to really fill our own cups, think about how much more productive we'd be throughout the week. So Tuesdays are named after Mars, and Mars represents the fire element. So that's a great day for starting creative projects, tapping into your passions, like starting brainstorming, moving. Like that's a really great day to have a really hard workout. And you're already filled up from taking care of yourself by using the water element. Then you move into air, which is Wednesday. And that's a really the air element loves to connect. It loves to do what we're doing tonight, come together, form community, network, listen to what everybody is going through. And then finally, we've got Earth, which loves systems and organization and really loves nourishment and taking care of our physical body from a like structured standpoint. So there's tons of ways that you can start to bring the elements into your uh, day, your week, your month. When folks work one-on-one with me, we get it down to like looking at their astrology chart, but it doesn't have to be that hard to implement. It really just can be even asking yourself, like, could I take 4 days in the week and dedicate each one to an element? Or could I take 4 hours in the day? And really start to see how that cycle naturally replenishes you, naturally makes you feel safe and calm, and like you can handle the stress that's coming at you. So, Ange,
So, what are some
what are some fun things that people can do to begin to implement into their daily life?
So, I put this quote up because I love this quote. But it says, "The one thing you have that nobody else has is you. Your voice, your mind, your story, your vision. So, write, draw, build, play, dance, and live. as only you can. So, of course, my number one tool is play, right? Whatever that means for you. Like, I'm not saying you have to go get Lego and build like a castle. Maybe that is something that you find fun. Maybe you like doing puzzles. Maybe you like playing video games. Maybe you like pickleball or curling or I don't know. Whatever resonates with you, do it. Move your body. We were talking about this before we started the recording, and we were talking about how important it is to move your body every day, even if it's 10 minutes. Just do something to move your body. Go for a walk. Be creative. Color, draw, sing, dance. Take a bath. Pamper yourself. Just find time to do something that fills your cup every day. And the time that you do that, that depends on you. But just schedule at least 10 minutes a day just for yourself.
And some lifestyle tips from me would be to get outside every day, preferably at sunrise, and preferably with your bare feet on the earth. Our Mother Earth, actually, it's been proven, releases negative ions. When we touch her, we absorb those negative ions and it naturally brings our stress levels down. The sun is so important for our brain to be able to make a whole host of neurotransmitters and hormones that help us navigate that stress and trauma response. The one thing we definitely know about long-term chronic stress, long-term chronic trauma, is that it burns through your minerals faster than you can probably keep them in your body. So if you've had a long history of chronic stress or trauma, making sure you have mineral-rich foods in your diet. So switching to Himalayan salt or Celtic salt, adding some seaweed in, nuts and seeds. Cacao actually is one of the best forms of minerals in like, and it's yummy. So even if you don't have ceremonial cacao, even using like cocoa powder is a great way to get some minerals in. One of my favorite ways is a resin called shilajit that you can turn into tea. It's got 84 different minerals in it. Angela laughs at me because literally we can't hang out ever without me talking about it. And then also increasing your dark green leafings. Ways to activate the vagus nerve so that at home I'm safe is breath work, even humming and singing. So if you are finding that you're having a hard time getting through your day, um, just even start to hum or sing your favorite song, put on a great playlist. Even just rubbing or tapping your heart can help as well. Sleep. Uh, I can't stress more how important getting adequate sleep is. Let me tell you, as a woman in her 40s, this is a tricky situation. Um, so nap if you can, go to bed a bit earlier, keep your bedroom as dark as possible, keep your bedroom cold. They've recently said the best temperature to sleep in is 18 degrees. I started doing that this summer and it did really help my sleep. Get off your electronics 2 hours before bed, get the lights dimmed. Just investing in good sleep hygiene is so important. And then give yourself the reward first. Especially as women, most of us have gone through our whole lives saying, I'll do that when, I'll buy that when, I'll, take care of myself when. Uh, let's flip that and let's start taking that reward first, knowing that when our cup is filled, we really can help other people more. And I even don't love saying that because really it still kind of sounds like we're not worth filling our own cup unless we're helping other people. We're worth filling our cup, period. End of sentence. Um, so a lot of the things we talked about tonight really could be their own like 5 hour lectures on their own, but we did want to give you a little bit of a taste, and also introduce a deeper way that you can work with us and play with us. So, Ange, what do we have coming up?
Well, Kat and I would love to bring you with us to Costa Rica. Our goal is to go to Costa Rica at the end of January, and the focus while we're there is to spend more time talking about the elements, focusing on your core element and how you can connect strongly with that element, as well as how you can use the other elements in your life. But most importantly, our goal is to play. Our goal is to go there, have fun, challenge you. So we have a lot of surprises in store for you. But one of the things that I will say is that we will be doing different things that tie into the elements every day. And one of the things that we will be doing is zip lining through the jungle. Now, for those of you who are afraid of heights, don't worry, we will take care of you. But the whole purpose of this is to challenge yourself and push yourself and show yourself what you can do. Our goal is to create a community. Our goal is to have heart centered women together, changing, talking about life, talking about our challenges in life, and just helping ourselves come back stronger and more equipped to deal with life.
Yeah, I think it's going to be such a beautiful balance between really, really amazing fun and really beautiful, deep connection with each other, with ourselves, with spirit. I mean, if you know Angela and I, that is kind of the embodiment of our friendship. Um, so to be able to lead women through this is just such soul work for both of us. So the details are we head out January 27th till February 3rd in 2024. We're going to the Goddess Garden in Costa Rica, which is on the Caribbean side. That's right.
Correct?
And it
Yes.
literally has like 10 kilometers of private beach, the retreat center, and jungle. So, like, how freaking exciting is that? We have some early,
And they
go ahead.
go ahead. I'm
We
so excited. No, go ahead.
we have early bird pricing up. So we really are encouraging people to sign up now so that you can save $500. All the information, well, one, you can talk to us anytime. And all the information is up on sacredexplorers.com. That's
Okay.
that's you didn't want to add anything else there? I
Well,
interrupted you.
I was just going to talk about the, like if you should really Google the Goddess Garden. It's beautiful. It's a boutique resort. It's not a huge resort. It's a boutique resort. All meals are provided. There's also a turtle sanctuary at the beach, and we will be doing some volunteering with the turtles, which I'm so excited about. There's just so much we have planned. We're slowly gonna release the information, but I don't want to give it all to you at once. But if you go on to our Sacred Explorers website, you can see it all there. And we would really love for people to join us.
So thank you for everybody who came live. I'm going to stop the recording in a second so that we can dive into questions, put our cameras on, get to know each other a little bit better. For those of you catching the replay, feel free to email, DM, all of those things. If you've got any questions, we're happy to chat with you either about what we covered tonight and or the retreat. We will send out a copy of this replay as soon as it's up on YouTube. And then just a reminder to join us next week for part 2, where we're going to dive into being tired of putting everyone else first. So we'll see you next week. And Thank you for joining us on the replay and stay tuned for some questions for all of those who are here live.
There. Recording is now stopped, right?
No, I need to figure out how to do that.